Welcome to the channel World's Undercurrents. Today we are going to explore one of the most powerful and controversial family stories in modern history. The story of the Rothschilds, a family that rose from a small Jewish ghetto in Frankfurt to become one of the most influential banking dynasties the world has ever seen. For more than 200 years, their name has been associated with immense wealth, major political influence, huge financial operations, and countless conspiracy theories. You are watching World's Undercurrents. In this episode, we will examine the real documented history of the Rothschild family, based on archives and historical records. Were they the secret rulers of the world? Or simply the greatest bankers in history? Get ready for a very detailed and thorough journey. Let's begin. The Rothschilds, secret rulers of the world, or the greatest bankers in history? Chapter 1. Introduction. Treasures from Linz and the Nazi confiscations. During the years of the Second World War, in the Austrian city of Linz, Adolf Hitler's hometown, the Nazis developed ambitious plans to open a monumental Führer museum. This was intended to be far more than a simple museum. It was designed as a grand symbol of Nazi cultural supremacy, featuring extensive galleries, a library, and a theater. The foundation of its collection would consist of thousands of masterpieces and priceless objects confiscated from the wealthiest families across Europe. Among the most prominent victims were the Rothschilds, whose palaces in Vienna and Paris housed exceptional works by Rembrandt, Rubens, Titian, Vermeer, and numerous other masters. Nazi agents from the Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg, RR, along with a special commission headed by Hans Posse, systematically seized paintings, sculptures, tapestries, jewelry, and rare manuscripts from Rothschild residences. From the French branch of the family alone, more than 5,000 art objects were taken. Many items were catalogued with the code R for Rothschild and redirected either to Linz or to Hermann Göring's private collection. Hitler took a personal interest in selecting pieces for the planned museum. In 1940, he received 53 masterpieces from the Paris Rothschild collections, including Vermeer's The Astronomer from Edmond de Rothschild's holdings. The Führer Museum project envisioned not only paintings, but also rare books, monastic manuscripts, and selected modern works, although so-called degenerate art was often destroyed or sold off. The confiscations began right after the Anschluss of Austria in March 1938 and intensified throughout occupied Europe. From Viennese palaces alone, more than 3,000 items were seized, and many were earmarked for Hitler's planned Führer Museum in Linz or for Göring's personal holdings. The family lost palaces, banks, and irreplaceable collections. Despite these severe blows, the dynasty endured and later recovered portions of its heritage through post-war restitution efforts. Many artworks were recovered from Nazi hiding places, such as salt mines in Alt-Aussee, although some pieces remained in state museums for decades and were subject to protracted negotiations. Portions of the collections were later returned or donated to institutions such as the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. In 1998, over 200 artworks were returned to the Rothschild heirs by the Austrian government and auctioned at Christie's in London in 1999. The ERR carefully recorded their achievements, in part to control their art loot, but also to justify their activities. The Rothschild collections were marked with specific codes, and thousands of objects were catalogued in detail. The looting affected multiple branches. The Austrian Rothschilds lost vast holdings in Vienna, while the French branch suffered the confiscation of thousands of paintings, drawings, and decorative arts from residences in Paris and elsewhere. Post-war restitution involved Allied forces uncovering looted artwork in various depots, with some works repatriated to France and then returned to family members. However, many pieces took decades to resolve. and some remain in public collections or were subject to compensation rather than physical return. The scale of the loss highlighted the vulnerability of even the wealthiest families during the Nazi era, yet the Rothschilds' ability to survive and rebuild demonstrated their resilience. The Nazis seized millions of dollars worth of precious items and art from the Rothschilds in France. Most of it was never returned in full, though significant restitution efforts took place in the post-war period. The family's art collections were among the finest in Europe, reflecting their refined taste known as le goût Rothschild. Palaces in Vienna and Paris housed thousands of works that were later targeted by the Nazis. Their patronage extended to science, horticulture, and public institutions. Philanthropic efforts included support for famine relief in Ireland and Scotland through the British Relief Association in 1847. The family's contributions to museums, universities, and cultural projects left a lasting mark on European heritage. The Nazi looting of Rothschild art was extensive, with thousands of pieces confiscated and marked with R codes. Post-war restitution involved complex negotiations, with some works returned to heirs and others remaining in public collections or subject to compensation. The scale of the loss and the family's efforts to recover their heritage highlight the human and cultural impact of the war on the dynasty. Who exactly were these individuals whose names still open doors in the realms of finance, politics, and culture, yet whose actual wealth continues to puzzle historians? Some view the Rothschilds as generous patrons of science and the arts, pioneers of modern international banking, and philanthropists whose investments helped lay groundwork for the State of Israel. Others have cast them as shadowy members of a supposed secret world government that allegedly manipulates conflicts and economies for hidden gain. We launch Our History of Billions, series with a strictly fact-based examination of the most influential banking dynasty in recorded history. Archival records from the official Rothschild archive, not speculation or myth, demonstrate how an enterprise that transformed Europe and the broader world emerged from the narrow streets of the Frankfurt ghetto. This story of rise, resilience, and enduring influence continues to fascinate scholars and the public alike, more than 200 years after its beginnings. The family's documented history starts in the 1450s in Frankfurt, with the name Rothschild deriving from the Zum Roten Schild house sign in the Judengasse. Mayor Amschel Rothschild, 1744 to 1812, laid the foundations on which his 5 sons and their descendants would build a Europe-wide banking empire that dominated international finance for much of the 19th century. Chapter 2. Mayor Amschel. From the ghetto to the heights of European finance. The origins of this remarkable story trace back to the mid-18th century in Frankfurt am Main, within the tightly confined Jewish quarter called the Judengasse. Life for Jews in this era was heavily restricted by law. Ghetto gates were locked at night. Movement was limited to no more than 2 people abreast, and permitted occupations were largely confined to money-changing, small trade, and related activities. Mayor Amschel Rothschild was born on February 23, 1744, into the family of Amschel Moses Rothschild, a modest goods trader and currency exchanger. The family surname derived from the ancestral house sign Zum Roten Schild at the Red Shield, a red shield emblem that hung above the shop. When Mayer was about 12 years old, his father died, and the boy was sent to apprentice at the Oppenheimer banking firm in Hanover. There he mastered essential skills, detecting counterfeit coins, calculating precise exchange rates, and maintaining meticulous financial records. Upon returning to Frankfurt around 1763 to 1764, Mayer revived his father's modest business and cultivated a deep interest in collecting rare ancient coins and metals. This scholarly pursuit served as his entry point into elite circles. He gained the attention and patronage of Crown Prince Wilhelm of Hesse, who later became Wilhelm IX, Landgrave and Elector of Hesse-Kassel, one of the richest aristocrats in Europe. Wilhelm had previously supported Mayer's father. By 1769, Mayer was appointed as a court factor, or Hofjude, an official financial agent responsible for enhancing the prince's wealth. In 1770, he married Gutla Schnapper, received a dowry, and established his own exchange office. As Britain's Industrial Revolution accelerated, Mayer strategically sent his eldest son Nathan to Manchester and later London to manage supplies of textiles and raw materials for the expanding British market. The French Revolution of 1789 and the ensuing Napoleonic Wars dramatically accelerated the family's ascent. When Wilhelm IX fled to Denmark and then England amid the conflicts, he entrusted Mayer with oversight of his substantial fortunes in gold and bills of exchange. The Rothschilds became involved in gold smuggling across the English Channel, purchasing bullion at favorable rates in England and transporting it to France, where they realized significant profits by cashing associated bills. In 1810, Mayer formally founded the firm Mayer, Amschel, Rothschild & Sons. On his deathbed on September 19, 1812, he prepared a detailed will that would serve as the enduring code for the family's operations across generations. Mayer Amschel did far more than launch a single bank. He constructed the groundwork for a sophisticated international financial network. His core principles: unwavering trust among partners, rapid and accurate transmission of market intelligence, and tight family cohesion enabled the Rothschilds to navigate the severe legal and social barriers imposed by ghetto restrictions and widespread anti-Semitic regulations. At the time of his passing, his accumulated fortune was already measured in the millions, and his son stood ready to extend operations across the European continent. Documents preserved in the Rothschild archive confirm this trajectory in detail. From a humble shop marked by a red shield in the overcrowded Judengasse to the position of trusted court banker, achieved through consistent reputation building, careful calculation, and strategic innovation within the constraints of the era. Mayer's early work with rare coins built personal connections that proved essential when he later handled large-scale subsidies and loans for European royalty. His success demonstrated how meticulous record-keeping and knowledge of currency markets could overcome systemic discrimination and lay the foundation for one of history's most enduring financial dynasties. The lessons from his life in the ghetto shaped a business philosophy centered on reliability, discretion, and long-term thinking that would define the family for generations. Chapter 3: 5 Arrows, the Family Code, and the Establishment of the European Network. In his final testament of 1812, Mayer Amschel Rothschild laid down rigorous rules designed to safeguard the family's capital and unity for centuries to come. Business affairs were to be conducted exclusively by male descendants, sons and their male heirs. Family property was never to be divided among separate branches. All assets were to remain within a shared pool. Marriages were strongly encouraged only within the immediate family or with closely allied Jewish lineages, thereby minimizing the risk of capital dispersal through external unions. These guidelines were formalized in the 1812 will and reinforced by the earlier 1810 partnership agreement that bound the sons together. Mayer's 5 sons formed the legendary 5 Arrows of the dynasty, a motif later incorporated into the family coat of arms. The eldest, Amschel Mayer, 1773 to 1855, remained in Frankfurt to oversee the original headquarters. Salomon Mayer, 1774 to 1855, established operations in Vienna, where he became a key financier to the Austrian imperial court. Nathan Mayer, 1777 to 1836, settled in London and created the firm N.M. Rothschild and Sons, which grew into a cornerstone of British finance. Carl Kalman Mayer, 1788 to 1855, moved to Naples, providing banking services to Italian royal and noble houses. James Jacob Mayer, 1792 to 1868, founded de Rothschild Frères in Paris, quickly rising to prominence in French financial and political circles. The family emblem depicted a clenched fist grasping 5 arrows, symbolizing unbreakable unity and drawn from ancient traditions, as well as Psalm 127. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. Their chosen motto, Concordia Integritas Industria, harmony, integrity, industry, encapsulated the guiding philosophy. The brothers maintained close coordination through a private network of couriers, riders, ships, and even carrier pigeons, which often delivered critical market and political intelligence faster than official government channels. Each branch issued loans to sovereign governments, traded in gold and government bonds, and collectively established what historians recognize as the first truly transnational banking network of the modern era. Mayer insisted upon absolute loyalty and discipline. Although women did not inherit business control directly, they played vital roles in arranging strategic marriages that strengthened alliances. Until well into the 19th century, the majority of unions occurred between cousins or within a narrow circle of compatible families, preserving control over assets. This practice continued in modified form into the 20th century and helped the Rothschilds avoid the fragmentation and decline that afflicted many contemporary banking houses. Records from the Rothschild archive and contemporary accounts confirm that the 5 sons functioned as a single, highly synchronized mechanism. When one branch faced market pressure or political instability, the others provided mutual support, ensuring overall resilience during turbulent times. This structure allowed the family to weather economic crises and political upheavals that destroyed less cohesive enterprises, creating a model of family business continuity that remains studied by historians and business scholars to this day. The 5-arrow symbol became a powerful representation of the family's strength through unity. Chapter 4: The Napoleonic Wars, the Waterloo Commission, and the Rise to European Dominance. The Napoleonic Wars, spanning 1803 to 1815, presented the Rothschilds with both substantial risks and unprecedented opportunities for expansion. Nathan Mayer Rothschild in London developed one of the most effective private intelligence and logistics networks in Europe. The British government commissioned him to finance the Duke of Wellington's campaigns by arranging the supply of gold and silver coin needed to pay troops fighting in the Iberian Peninsula and later in France itself. The brothers coordinated complex smuggling operations of bullion across the English Channel, successfully circumventing Napoleon's continental blockade. From 1813 to 1815, Nathan was instrumental in financing the British war effort, organizing the shipment and transfer of bullion and funds from Britain to Wellington's armies across Europe, as well as arranging the payment of British financial subsidies to their continental allies. In 1815 alone, the Rothschilds provided £9.8 million in subsidy loans to Britain's continental allies. On June 18, 1815, during the decisive Battle of Waterloo, Nathan received reports of Napoleon's defeat approximately 24 hours before official British government couriers arrived in London. A long-standing legend, frequently amplified by later critics and anti-Semitic pamphleteers, asserts that Nathan exploited this early information by first selling British government bonds to trigger panic on the London Stock Exchange, then repurchasing them at depressed prices to realize enormous profits. However, Rigorous examination of surviving historical documents, including those in the Rothschild archive and British government records, reveals no concrete evidence of deliberate market manipulation on the scale described. While the family certainly profited from its established role in war financing and subsidies, any gains around the time of Waterloo were modest relative to the broader fortunes generated by sustained lending to the anti-Napoleonic coalition. Nathan's first concern was to take the news to the British government. The real source of the family's wealth was the commission on gigantic transactions, such as raising loans on the government's behalf in Europe. That totaled £1.76 million between April and September 1815 alone. Post-war, the Rothschilds emerged as Europe's preeminent creditors. They arranged financing for French reparations payments, extended loans to the governments of Prussia, Austria, and Russia, and helped stabilize post-war economies. By 1818, the brothers had been granted hereditary noble titles by the Austrian emperor. Their combined capital expanded dramatically from hundreds of thousands to millions of pounds sterling. In 1818, Nathan arranged a £5 million loan to the Prussian government. The 5 interconnected branches in Frankfurt, London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples created a mutually reinforcing system. Downturns in one market could be offset by strength in others. Nathan played a pioneering role in the development and issuance of government bonds, introducing innovative instruments for large-scale international finance. The conflicts underscored the strategic advantage of the Rothschilds' family-based network. Reliable information and capital could be moved with greater speed and security than was possible for most competitors, or even some state actors. By the 1820s, the family had achieved dominance in key sectors of European banking, providing funding for infrastructure projects such as railroads and mining operations, as well as continued government borrowing. This period marked the transformation of the Rothschilds from regional bankers into the dominant financial force in 19th century Europe. Chapter 5: Wine, Art, Politics, and the Suez Canal Transaction. Beyond their banking activities, the Rothschilds cultivated reputations as sophisticated patrons of the arts, discerning collectors and influential figures in European politics and culture. In Paris, James de Rothschild established a lavish residence on Rue Lafitte that became renowned for its outstanding collection of old master paintings and decorative arts. The family expanded its interests into viticulture by acquiring 2 of Bordeaux's most prestigious estates, Chateau Lafitte Rothschild in 1868 and Chateau Mouton Rothschild. These properties ranked among the 5 greatest classified growths of the Medoc region. A distinctive tradition associated with Chateau Mouton Rothschild began in 1945 under Baron Philippe de Rothschild. To mark the Allied victory in World War II, he commissioned artist Philippe Julien to create a special label featuring a V for Victory motif surrounded by vine leaves and laurel. This initiative evolved into an annual practice of inviting renowned contemporary artists to design the wine labels. Over the decades, contributors have included Georges Braque, Salvador Dali, Joan Miro, Pablo Picasso, Marc Chagall, Henry Moore, César Andy Warhol, and even Prince Charles. The resulting labels transformed each vintage into a collectible work of art, blending the worlds of fine wine and high culture in a manner that remains unique in the industry. In the realm of geopolitics, the Rothschilds exerted quiet but significant influence during the 19th century. In 1875, the London house N.M. Rothschild & Sons provided a critical loan of £4 million sterling to the British government under Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli. The funds enabled the rapid purchase of a substantial block of shares in the Suez Canal from the financially strained Khedive of Egypt. The transaction was completed swiftly, reportedly on the basis of personal trust between Disraeli and Lionel de Rothschild. and without immediate parliamentary approval, an arrangement that later drew criticism from political opponents such as William Gladstone. The loan was repaid within months, securing British strategic control over one of the world's most vital maritime trade routes. This deal highlighted the family's trusted position and ability to act on short notice, shaping British imperial strategy in the Middle East and beyond. The French branch of the family also became deeply involved in major infrastructure and resource projects. They provided financing for railroad construction and helped facilitate the transport of oil from the Baku fields in Russia, contributing to the development of early international energy supply chains. Meanwhile, the family constructed magnificent country estates, including Waddesdon Manor in Buckinghamshire, England, which hosted visits from Queen Victoria and showcased the family's refined taste in architecture and landscaping. The Rothschilds were involved in financing governments during the Crimean War, 1854 to 1856, underwriting the debt of France, Britain, Austria, and Turkey. They also placed large loans for France after the Franco-Prussian War in 1871 and 1872, known as the Liberation Loans, which helped maintain the French government under Adolphe Thiers in power. These financial schemes involved issuing government bonds, arranging subsidies, and managing large-scale currency exchanges, generating commissions and equity stakes in various enterprises. Their involvement in these projects demonstrated their ability to mobilize capital across borders and influence political outcomes through economic means. Chapter 6: Tragedies of the 20th Century, World War II, and the Ransom of Baron Louis. The 20th century tested the Rothschild family with unprecedented challenges and losses. During the First World War, different branches found themselves supporting opposing sides. The British and French houses largely backed the Allies, while the Austrian branch aligned with the Central Powers. Despite the divisions, the family's core enterprises demonstrated resilience and managed to recover in the interwar period. However, the rise of the Nazi regime in Germany in the 1938 Anschluss of Austria brought direct and devastating consequences. Following the annexation of Austria, Nazi authorities targeted the Vienna Rothschilds with particular intensity. Baron Louis Nathaniel de Rothschild, head of the Austrian branch, was arrested at Aspern Airport and imprisoned by the Gestapo in Vienna's Hotel Metropole. He was held for more than a year while negotiations for his release took place. The family ultimately secured his freedom in May 1930 by surrendering a vast array of assets, including banks, palaces, and substantial portions of their art collections. In what has been described as one of the largest individual ransoms in history, reportedly amounting to the equivalent of around $21 million at the time. Louis subsequently emigrated to Switzerland. Nazi forces confiscated thousands of artworks and objects from Rothschild properties across Austria and occupied France. From Viennese palaces alone, more than 3,000 items were seized. The French branch lost several thousand additional pieces, including major old master paintings. Family members fled to Britain, the United States, and neutral countries, while their residences were looted and in some cases damaged or destroyed during the war. Amid these tragedies, the family's earlier philanthropic commitments in Palestine provided a measure of continuity and long-term significance. After the war ended, surviving family members returned to Europe where possible and initiated restitution claims. Many artworks were recovered from Nazi hiding places, such as salt mines in Alt-Aussee. The events of the mid-20th century exposed the vulnerability of even the most established fortunes to totalitarian regimes. Yet they also highlighted the family's capacity for endurance, adaptation, and continued philanthropic engagement. Despite profound disruption, the ransom paid for Louis and the subsequent loss of thousands of art objects underscored the human cost of the era. the Nazis seized millions of dollars worth of precious items and art from the Rothschilds in France. Most of it was never returned in full, though significant restitution efforts took place in the post-war period. Chapter 7: Edmond de Rothschild, Pica, and the Foundations of Modern Israel. A particularly notable philanthropic endeavor was led by Edmond James de Rothschild, 1845 to 1934, the youngest son of James. Beginning in the 1880s, he provided extensive financial support for Jewish agricultural settlements in Palestine during the First Aliyah. Edmond invested millions in land acquisition, swamp drainage, vineyard planting, factory construction, and infrastructure development in colonies such as Rishon LeZion, Zikron Yaakov, and Rosh Pina. He personally invested more than 50 million francs, an enormous sum at the time, in Jewish settlements. He purchased some 500 square kilometers of land in the land of Israel and established dozens of moshavot, factories and wineries. His efforts helped establish viable farming communities and laid important groundwork for future Jewish settlement in the region. In 1899, responsibility for the Rothschild settlements was transferred to the Jewish Colonization Association, ICA. In 1924, the ICA branch dealing with colonies in Palestine was reorganized by Baron Edmond as the Palestine Jewish Colonization Association, PICA, under the direction of his son James de Rothschild, 1878 to 1957. PICA acquired over 125,000 acres of land and set up business ventures. PICA continued to purchase land and establish moshavot, engage in forestation, and establish many factories throughout the country. The settlements he supported, Rishon LeZion, Zikron Yaakov, Petah Tikva, and many others, became the economic backbone of the future state. After 1948, the Israeli government publicly acknowledged that without Edmond's decades of investment, the young country would have faced far greater difficulties in its first years. This chapter of the family's history is documented in PICA archives and Israeli state records. In his will of 1957, James instructed that PICA should transfer most of its land in Israel to the Jewish National Fund. By the end of the mandate, 1948, the PICA possessed a large proportion of the Jewish-owned land in Palestine. The family's involvement in Palestine went far beyond initial land purchases and included economic development through new crops, industrial enterprises, and social institutions. Edmond's work is considered one of the pillars of the Zionist vision and the State of Israel. Chapter 8: Financing the Industrial Revolution, Railroads, Baku Oil, and Major Wars. In the 1830s and 1840s, the Rothschilds became major investors in the new railroad industry. They financed lines in France, Austria, and Germany, including the important Nord Railway in France and the Kaiser Ferdinand Nordbahn in Austria. In Russia, they helped build lines that transported Baku oil. These projects not only generated huge profits, but also connected the family's banks across Europe more tightly than ever before. By the middle of the 19th century, the Rothschilds controlled or influenced dozens of the most important railway companies on the continent, turning their banking empire into an industrial one as well. Their involvement in infrastructure projects helped accelerate the Industrial Revolution in several European countries. The Rothschilds were deeply involved in financing governments during the Crimean War of 1854 to 1856, underwriting the debt of France, Britain, Austria, and Turkey. They raised large sums for the conflict, demonstrating their ability to mobilize capital on an international scale. In the post-Napoleonic period, the family arranged financing for French reparations and supported the restoration of monarchies at the Congress of Vienna. They placed the two great French loans known as Liberation Loans after France's defeat by Prussia in 1871 and 1872. Alphonse de Rothschild, as the head of the international banking syndicate, could boast that his influence had maintained the chief of the French government, Adolphe Thiers, in power. The family financed both sides in various conflicts, including the Austro-Prussian War and the Franco-Prussian War, ensuring profit regardless of the outcome. They also competed with the Rockefellers in the Baku oil fields and invested in mining operations such as Rio Tinto and Almaden mercury mine. These financial schemes involved government bonds, subsidies, infrastructure loans, and equity stakes, generating steady commissions and long-term influence in European industry and politics. Chapter 9. The Congress of Vienna, Post-War Loans and Political Influence in 19th Century Europe. After Napoleon's defeat, the Congress of Vienna, 1814 to 1815, redrew the map of Europe. The Rothschilds played a significant role in financing the post-war settlement. Nathan in London and his brothers provided large loans to the victorious powers to cover the costs of the war and the new political order. They helped fund French reparations and supported the restoration of monarchies. This period solidified the family's position as the bankers of Europe. Archival records show that the Rothschild network moved millions in gold and bonds during the Congress, ensuring stability for the new European order, while dramatically increasing their own capital and influence. The family's ability to provide rapid financing helped stabilize the continent after years of war. The Rothschilds exerted influence in European politics through their loans and relationships with governments. They were bankers to monarchs and governments, builders of great houses and collectors of the finest art. In the 19th century, they dominated international finance in Europe. The family's political interventions were often indirect but effective, such as the Suez Canal loan that shaped British imperial strategy and the financing of infrastructure that supported industrial growth. They financed governments on multiple sides in conflicts, including the Napoleonic Wars, Crimean War, and Franco-Prussian War, which allowed them to maintain influence regardless of which power prevailed. Their network enabled them to act as a sixth great power in Europe by the mid-19th century. The Rothschilds financed governments during the Crimean War, underwriting debt for multiple powers. In the Franco-Prussian War's aftermath, they placed massive liberation loans for France, exerting influence that helped stabilize the French government. These interventions were documented in historical records and demonstrated the family's role in shaping European politics through economic means. Chapter 10. The Modern Rothschild Empire, Rothschild & Co. and Edmond de Rothschild Group. In the contemporary period, the Rothschilds maintain a notable but transformed presence in global finance and philanthropy. The British and French banking branches eventually merged into Rothschild & Co., while the Swiss operations continue independently as the Edmond de Rothschild Group. As of recent reports, the Edmond de Rothschild Group has managed assets approaching 184,200 billion Swiss francs, supported by strong inflows in private banking and wealth management. Rothschild & Co. has similarly demonstrated growth in advisory services, wealth management, and mergers and acquisitions. Realistic assessments of the family's collective wealth, based on disclosed banking assets, trusts, and investments, place active holdings in the tens of billions of dollars rather than the hundreds of billions or trillions sometimes alleged in sensational accounts. Precise figures remain private, as is typical for long-established family enterprises. Rothschild & Co. is one of the world's largest independent financial advisory groups, employing thousands of people in over 40 countries. The group operates in global advisory, wealth and asset management, and merchant banking. The Edmond de Rothschild Group focuses on private banking, asset management, and sustainable development. The family continues a long-standing tradition of philanthropy through various foundations that support education, scientific research, environmental initiatives, medical causes, and cultural institutions, as well as projects connected to Israel. The historic coat of arms featuring 5 arrows and the motto, "Harmony, Integrity, Industry," remains a symbol of the values emphasized by Mayor Amschel more than 2 centuries ago. The family has adapted to modern regulations and nationalizations, such as the 1981 French nationalization of Banque Rothschild, from which they rebuilt new entities within a few years. Today, their entities continue to operate in advisory, wealth management, and asset management, with significant assets under management. Chapter 11. Conspiracy Theories, Historical Record, and the Family's Enduring Legacy. Persistent conspiracy theories continue to circulate around the Rothschild name. Accusations of secretly controlling central banks, orchestrating major wars, or forming part of a hidden world government trace back at least to the 1840s, when pamphlets such as the 1846 Histoire édifiante et curieuse de Rothschild prior began spreading exaggerated or fabricated claims. Many of these narratives recycle long-standing anti-Semitic tropes and have been thoroughly examined and debunked by historians. Central banks, such as the U.S. Federal Reserve, operate as public or quasi-public institutions with governance structures independent of any single private family. While the Rothschilds have participated in international forums and maintained relationships with political and business leaders, as have many prominent families, there is no credible evidence that they exercise overarching control over global finance or geopolitics. The documented historical record presents a more grounded and impressive narrative. A family that rose from the restricted conditions of the Frankfurt Judengasse through disciplined partnership, innovation in cross-border finance, and strategic adaptation to changing political landscapes. From financing coalitions during the Napoleonic era to supporting infrastructure and settlement projects that contributed to modern Israel, and from building renowned art collections to sustaining philanthropic efforts across generations. The Rothschilds exemplify the potential of family enterprise grounded in unity and long-term vision. Their story offers enduring lessons in resilience, cooperation, and the constructive application of capital. Lessons that continue to resonate far beyond any myths or legends that have attached themselves to the name over time. The Rothschild Archive preserves thousands of documents that detail their business history, family tree, art collections, and contributions to European and Israeli development. The family's legacy includes not only banking, but also cultural patronage, scientific support, and philanthropy that shaped modern Europe and the State of Israel. Their interventions were real and documented, financing wars and peace, building infrastructure, supporting settlements, and collecting art. Myths of secret world control are debunked by the evidence. The Rothschilds remain one of history's greatest banking dynasties, defined by unity, innovation, and contribution to progress. Chapter 12. Additional political and financial interventions, Crimean War, Franco-Prussian War, and infrastructure schemes. The Rothschilds' involvement in 19th century politics extended to the Crimean War, where they underwrote debt for multiple powers, including France, Britain, Austria, and Turkey, raising large sums that helped sustain the conflict. In the Franco-Prussian War's aftermath, they placed massive liberation loans for France, exerting influence that helped stabilize the French government. They also financed railroads across Europe, mining operations, and early oil transport from Baku, demonstrating their role in both war financing and industrial development. These schemes were based on government bonds, subsidies, and infrastructure loans that generated steady commissions and profits while shaping European economic and political landscapes. The family's network allowed them to move capital faster than governments, giving them a unique position in international finance from the 1820s to the 1870s. They financed both sides in conflicts to ensure profit regardless of outcomes, a strategy that built their fortune but also fueled later conspiracy narratives. The Rothschilds financed governments during the Crimean War, underwriting debt for multiple powers. In the Franco-Prussian War's aftermath, they placed massive liberation loans for France, exerting influence that helped stabilize the French government. These interventions were documented in historical records and demonstrated the family's role in shaping European politics through economic means. Chapter 13: Art Collections, Nazi Looting, and Post-War Restitution. The Rothschilds' art collections were among the finest in Europe, reflecting their refined taste known as Le Goût Rothschild. Palaces in Vienna and Paris housed thousands of works that were later targeted by the Nazis. Their patronage extended to science, horticulture, and public institutions. Philanthropic efforts included support for famine relief in Ireland and Scotland through the British Relief Association in 1847. The family's contributions to museums, universities, and cultural projects left a lasting mark on European heritage. The Nazi looting of Rothschild art was extensive, with thousands of pieces confiscated and marked with R codes. Post-war restitution involved complex negotiations, with some works returned to heirs and others remaining in public collections or subject to compensation. The scale of the loss and the family's efforts to recover their heritage highlight the human and cultural impact of the war on the dynasty. Chapter 14: The family's resilience and adaptation across centuries. From the ghetto restrictions of the 18th century to the challenges of the 20th century and the global financial landscape of the 21st, the Rothschilds adapted through family unity, innovative financial instruments, and strategic diversification. Their model of transnational banking influenced modern finance, while their philanthropy in Palestine helped lay foundations for Israel. The family story is one of documented achievement through legitimate banking, loans, and investments, not conspiracy. They survived nationalizations, wars, and economic crises by rebuilding and adapting their operations. Today, their entities continue to operate in advisory, wealth management, and asset management, with significant assets under management. Chapter 15: Conclusion: The real historical record of a banking dynasty. The Rothschild family's history, as preserved in official archives and historical records, is one of remarkable achievement. From Mayor Amschel's coin dealing in Frankfurt to the global operations of Rothschild & Co. and the Edmond de Rothschild Group today, with assets under management in the hundreds of billions of Swiss francs and euros, the family has shaped finance, politics, industry, and philanthropy. Their interventions were real and documented, financing wars and peace, building infrastructure, supporting settlements, and collecting art. Myths of secret world control are debunked by the evidence. The Rothschilds remain one of history's greatest banking dynasties, defined by unity, innovation, and contribution to progress. Their legacy continues through banking institutions, philanthropic foundations, and cultural contributions that have influenced Europe and Israel for over 2 centuries. This was a detailed and thorough exploration of the Rothschild family on the channel World's Undercurrents. We presented the real documented history based on archives and historical facts, without myths and without exaggeration. If you enjoyed this episode, Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. In the next videos, we will continue uncovering the hidden currents of world history and global finance. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode on World's Undercurrents.